This is a massive 1600 watt ATX 3.0 PSU from Be Quiet. It's the Dark Power Pro 13 and it comes with not one but two PCIe 5.0 600 watt connectors, cause you know, sometimes one RTX 4090 just isn't enough. When it comes to Be Quiet, anything labeled dark is top tier. So with PSUs, we have the Dark Power 13 series with 3 models ranging from 750 to 1000 watts. And then this Dark Power Pro 13 series has 1300 and 1600 watt models. Every PSU in this series achieves the highest level titanium efficiency certification, and that's important when you're dealing with such huge amounts of power. The more efficient a unit is, the less waste heat it's going to produce, and in the end that means less demand on the cooling system and hopefully less noise. I don't usually pay a ton of attention to packaging when I get a new PC part, but Be Quiet's packaging on these top tier PSUs is worth mentioning. The box is really strong and sturdy and it just looks awesome with the reflective silver branding. It's the best packaging I've seen on a PC part, period. If there was an award for best packaging, Be Quiet wins, and everyone else should either do better or give up. The case on these things is all black with a brushed aluminum finish and some really flashy reflective product naming on the side. It's the same as what we saw with the previous Dark Power 12 models, and that's perfectly fine with me because it's just not a design that needs any updating. It looked amazing then and still looks amazing now. The cooling system's based around Be Quiet's Silent Wings fan technology, but it's been modified and tweaked a little bit for specific use in power supplies. The frameless fan sits on a set of tripod legs inside the unit, and it intakes air through a funnel-shaped inlet under a mesh panel that covers almost the entire area of one side of the unit. Be Quiet's noise charts show virtually inaudible operation up to about 50% load, and a peak noise output of just over 31 decibels. The back panel has a bunch of cutouts for hot exhaust air to escape the unit. There's a big power switch and an even bigger main power connector. This is the main power cable, by the way. Look how big this thing is. It's a monster. And I guess it has to be able to handle this much power. This unit has a lot of modular connectors, including not one, but two PCI Express 5.0 600 watt connectors for GPUs. So technically you could connect two RTX 4090 GPUs in one system, but looking into the details, it says the combined power when both connectors are in use is actually 1000 watts and not 1200 as you might expect. Whether or not that might cause stability issues in systems that have dual 600 watt GPUs, I'm not so sure, because, you know, I don't have two RTX 4090s to be able to test it. But Be Quiet does say the unit can handle power excursions up to double its rated power. So hopefully momentary power spikes won't really be an issue, even in a dual GPU setup. And if anyone has direct experience with dual 4090s on this particular power supply, leave a comment and let me know how that works. This is one of the few PSUs that comes stock from the factory with individually sleeved cables. There's no color options, everything's just black. Might be cool if Be Quiet could offer some different colors at some point, but in my opinion, black just goes with everything, and the quality and look of these is top notch. They're also more flexible and maneuverable compared to regular sleeve cables that you see on most PSUs these days. I find that it can really help with the build process, and cable management is a little bit easier, especially in cases with a lot of tight angles. This model comes with 16 cables. You've got your main 20 plus 4 pin ATX motherboard power, 8 pin and 4 plus 4 pin CPU power, 3 PCIe 6 plus 2 pin cables with 2 connectors on each, 6 cables for drives and accessories with a total of 16 SATA and 5 Molex connectors. There's 2 PCIe 5.0 cables, which by the way are the only 2 cables that aren't individually sleeved. I reached out to Be Quiet to find out why, and they just said it's because there's some really tiny wires in there that are difficult to sleeve individually. And you should pay attention to the way you install these cables because there's a specific way to do it. Be Quiet shows in the product manual that you should not bend the cable horizontally or more than 40 millimeters measured from the tip of the connector to the bend. Given the reports of all the PCIe 5 cables that were melting due to improper installation, I think it's safe to say you should take the manufacturer's advice here. This guy's running 6 separate 12-volt rails, and that's another reason to read the manual, because you want to pay attention to that wiring diagram and also the rail configuration so that you don't mess anything up. It doesn't make any sense to buy a top-tier PSU and then screw yourself over by not setting it up right. Speaking of 12-volt rails, I gotta mention the overclocking key, and if you're a hardcore overclocker, you might be interested in this little thing. It's basically just a little toggle switch that mounts in an expansion slot in your case, and what it does is it lets you switch between multi and single rail configurations. So in multi-rail mode, you've got the power distributed over 6 rails, flip that switch and it combines them into one single massive rail. The package also ships with some mounting hardware, a whole bunch of cable ties to help with your cable management, and a pack of cable combs to use with those individually sleeved cables, so you can get that stuff set up and get everything looking good in your build. The whole point of the Dark Power series seems to be to deliver the best that Be Quiet's capable of when it comes to power supplies. They take all their best tech and cram it all in here. That's how they're able to achieve things like titanium efficiency and quiet operation. And they back it all up with a 10-year warranty, which is reassuring and definitely nice to see on high-end parts with big price tags. Speaking of price, how much does this guy cost? You might want to sit down. This 1600 watt model costs an eye-watering $460 US. At that price, it's not going to be for everyone, but it's also not intended to be. The bottom line is this is a top-tier Halo product. So if you want the best of the best that Be Quiet has to offer, this is it. Full specs and details are down in the description along with some purchasing links, so if you're interested in these dark power units, make sure you check that stuff out and get subscribed, and we'll see you soon.